Another deep dive.
Always.
Awesome. Today we're going to be tackling this idea of, knowing yourself, but with a bit of a twist.
A twist. How so?
Well, we're exploring it through Dr. Javier Palmer's perspective.
Oh, interesting.
He views this whole self-discovery thing through this lens of divine purpose.
Okay.
So we'll be looking at day 2 of his podcast, El Misterio de Dios.
Right.
The episode is called Conocet.
Conocet, yeah.
And we'll be using the devotional that goes along with it, too.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, Dr. Palmer, coming from his Christian faith, really highlights how sometimes societal pressures can lead us away from, who we're really meant to be.
Yeah, that resonates with me, actually. Even for those who aren't religious, I think there's something universal about feeling like you're living someone else's life,
For sure. It's like we're putting on a costume instead of truly embodying who we are.
Exactly. And Dr. Palmer uses this really striking image. He talks about people living as beings dressed as people they are not.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is, right. And he suggests that true self-discovery involves peeling away those layers we put on to please others.
Like those external markers of success.
Yes. The things society tells us to chase.
So then how does Dr. Palmer propose we break free from those pressures?
Well, he suggests understanding your identity, but through this lens of divine purpose.
Okay, so instead of looking for validation from, achievements or relationships, appearances.
Lots of those external things, yeah. He argues that we should kind of turn inward and align ourselves with a plan that goes beyond, just our own personal desires.
He lays out 4 key points, actually, for understanding yourself through God's purpose.
Yeah,
right?
He does, yeah.
Discovering your true identity, accepting your divine purpose, living authentically, and experiencing lasting peace.
It's interesting how he connects these points to this broader theme of seeking internal validation and meaning, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's like he's saying your worth isn't determined by, how many likes you get on social media or what your job title is. It comes from a deeper understanding of who you are, but in relation to something bigger than yourself.
It makes you wonder if maybe relying solely on those external things is almost setting ourselves up for disappointment, right?
Absolutely. It creates this constant need for validation, which, as Dr. Palmer argues, can never truly be satisfied by those external achievements alone.
Okay, so we're starting to see this contrast between societal and divine self-perception emerge as a major theme here. But how does Dr. Palmer specifically define divine purpose? I mean, it's a concept that's open to interpretation.
That's true, and he delves into his interpretation of the biblical creation story, specifically the creation of man and woman.
Oh, interesting.
He argues that man was created first to protect and care for woman, which he sees as, evidence of God's profound love for women.
But how might this interpretation resonate with someone who maybe doesn't necessarily subscribe to a specific religious doctrine? Could we say there's a broader takeaway here?
Definitely. While this is rooted in Dr. Palmer's Christian beliefs, I think the underlying message speaks to kind of a universal desire for respectful relationships.
Right. Built on care and protection.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of each individual.
And maybe recognizing that we all crave that sense of belonging and safety in our relationship.
Whether it's with a romantic partner, a friend, or even within a community.
Exactly. It's a very basic human need to feel valued and cared for.
It is, for sure.
So, having explored how societal pressures can sometimes lead us astray and this concept of divine purpose, Dr. Palmer then seems to shift gears a bit, right? He starts focusing on the unique qualities and capabilities of women.
He does, yes. He really encourages women to embrace those unique qualities, particularly their capacity for nurturing and giving life. He celebrates those qualities as strengths, urging women not to shy away from them, but to see them as expressions of their divine purpose.
But wouldn't you say that this concept of nurturing and giving life can be expanded beyond, the traditional sense of motherhood?
Absolutely. These qualities are valuable in so many areas of life. In our relationships, our work, our communities. It's about fostering growth and contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Right. So Dr. Palmer is urging women to recognize the power and impact they have in the world.
Exactly.
And to never dim their light for anyone.
Yes.
Which brings us to his closing thought. He makes this really powerful statement about never settling for relationships that diminish your value.
Strong message, for sure.
Yeah, it really resonated with me. And I think it goes beyond just romantic relationships, It applies to all the connections in our lives.
It does, yeah.
It's about choosing to be in relationships that encourage our growth, that celebrate our strengths,
Yes.
and that allow us to be our authentic selves.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot in this first section. We've seen how societal expectations can sometimes pull us away from our true selves,
Yes.
explored this idea of aligning ourselves with a divine purpose, and touched upon the unique strengths and capabilities of women.
And the key takeaway here seems to be that Dr. Palmer is encouraging us to shift our focus from external validation to internal worth, to recognize our inherent value as individuals, and to choose relationships and paths that support our authentic selves.
Right. Now let's delve a little deeper into some of Dr. Palmer's specific teachings and see how they resonate with you.
Okay, sounds good.
One of the things Dr. Palmer really emphasizes is this biblical concept of being fearfully and wonderfully made.
Oh, yeah.
It's a phrase that speaks to this incredible intricacy and intentionality behind our creation.
Beautiful imagery, right. It suggests that we're not just accidents, but, masterpieces carefully crafted with a purpose in mind. And Dr. Palmer connects this idea of being fearfully and wonderfully made to embracing our individual differences. He argues that our unique qualities are not flaws, but rather expressions of God's creativity and purpose.
So it's not about striving for some sort of cookie-cutter ideal.
Not at all. It's about recognizing that diversity is a strength, not a weakness. Each of us brings something special to the table.
This fits in nicely with his discussion of talents and abilities, right?
Absolutely. Dr. Palmer emphasizes that God equips each of us with unique gifts to fulfill our purpose in the world. And what's interesting is he views these talents not just as skills, but as tools for serving others and making a positive impact.
It's not about personal gain then, but contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Precisely. Dr. Palmer is advocating for a life of service. He even urges us to actively discover and develop our talents, to identify our passions and pursue them with purpose.
I see how this connects back to that idea of living authentically. When we align our actions with our passions and talents, there's a greater sense of fulfillment.
Right. And that sense of fulfillment, he argues, is a sign that we're on the right path, that we're living in accordance with our divine purpose.
I appreciate how Dr. Palmer weaves together these threads of self-discovery, purpose, and service. It's a holistic perspective.
Indeed. And he takes it a step further by emphasizing the importance of relationships in this journey. He encourages us to surround ourselves with people who support our growth and encourage us to live authentically.
He's quite firm on this point, actually. He even suggests distancing ourselves from relationships that diminish our value or hinder our purpose.
That's true. And while that may sound harsh, I think it speaks to the importance of prioritizing our well-being. We can't fully embrace our true selves if we're constantly being pulled down or held back by negative influences.
He also highlights the role of mentorship and guidance, right? Suggesting that we seek out wise counsel from those who've walked a similar path.
Exactly. He reminds us that we don't have to figure everything out on our own. There are people who can offer valuable insights and support. It's interesting how he frames this, too. He says that true self-discovery isn't a one-time event, but rather an ongoing process.
So it's not about reaching some final destination.
No, it's a lifelong journey of learning, growing, and evolving. As we experience new things and face new challenges, our understanding of ourselves deepens.
And how does faith play into this ongoing journey? Dr. Palmer seems to connect the two quite deeply.
He does. He argues that connecting with a higher power can provide guidance, strength, and a sense of purpose throughout this process of self-discovery.
Makes sense. It's about having something to ground you, something bigger than yourself to believe in, especially when things get tough.
Yes. And while this perspective is rooted in Dr. Palmer's Christian faith, the underlying message is relatable to anyone, regardless of their beliefs. It's about finding something that gives you a sense of meaning and purpose beyond the day-to-day.
And this leads him to his powerful call to action. He urges listeners to step out in faith and pursue their purpose with courage and confidence.
It's a reminder that self-discovery isn't just about introspection. It's also about taking action, making choices, and living a life that aligns with your values and aspirations.
Dr. Palmer is speaking directly to women in this podcast, offering a message specifically tailored to them.
Yes, he encourages women to embrace their femininity and recognize the unique strengths and qualities they bring to the world. He talks about intuition, empathy, and nurturing as powerful forces, not weaknesses to be hidden away.
I love that. It's a real departure from traditional societal expectations.
Absolutely. Dr. Palmer actively challenges those expectations, urging women to break free from limiting beliefs and pursue their passions with confidence. He wants women to recognize their full potential.
He even shares inspiring stories of women throughout history who have defied the odds and achieved great things, right?
He does. And those stories serve as powerful reminders that a person's character and contributions are what truly define them, not their gender.
But Dr. Palmer doesn't just focus on individual achievement. He also emphasizes the importance of women supporting each other.
That's right. He believes that when women come together, celebrate each other's successes, and offer mutual support, they create a powerful force for positive change.
It's about fostering a sense of community and solidarity.
Precisely. And this leads us to Dr. Palmer's discussion of beauty. He challenges conventional definitions, arguing that true beauty is not about physical appearance, but rather about inner qualities like kindness, compassion, and strength.
He encourages women to embrace their natural beauty and resist those unrealistic standards set by society.
Yes, he advocates for self-acceptance and a focus on inner qualities rather than external appearances.
And it seems he ties this in with the importance of self-care, right? Nurturing our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being.
Exactly. He emphasizes that taking care of ourselves is not selfish, but rather essential for living a fulfilling and impactful life.
He doesn't just leave it at that, though. He provides practical tips for incorporating self-care into daily routines.
He does, which is really helpful because it makes these concepts more tangible and actionable for the listener.
So we've seen how Dr. Palmer challenges societal expectations, celebrates feminine strengths, and encourages self-acceptance and self-care. Now, let's explore how he guides women towards discovering their purpose.
This is a key part of his message. Dr. Palmer believes that every woman has a unique purpose, and that discovering this purpose is essential for living a meaningful life.
It's not about fitting into a predefined mold, then.
Not at all. Dr. Palmer encourages women to explore their passions, identify their strengths, and use their talents to make a positive impact on the world.
He believes that our purpose is often revealed through our experiences, challenges, and relationships.
That's right. It's not always something we can simply deduce or figure out intellectually. It often unfolds organically as we navigate life.
Dr. Palmer also talks about the importance of aligning our actions with our values and pursuing goals that are consistent with our purpose.
This is a key principle for living a fulfilling life. When our actions are in alignment with our values and purpose, we experience a deep sense of satisfaction and meaning.
Sounds like he's advocating for a life of intentionality.
Yes, choosing our path consciously rather than simply drifting along.
And he ends this section with a powerful message of hope, assuring listeners that they are capable of achieving their dreams and making a positive impact on the world.
It's a message that inspires and empowers women to embrace their purpose and live a life of meaning and significance. He really encourages listeners to kind of embrace their true selves, pursue their passions, live a life of purpose and impact,
Yeah, and he emphasizes that the journey of self-discovery, it's ongoing. And it's okay to make mistakes along the way.
Totally. It's not about being perfect. It's about continuously striving to become the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. And he leaves us with this message of hope and encouragement, urging us to never give up on our dreams and to keep moving forward with courage and determination.
And you know what? He reminds us that we don't have to do it alone. We can seek guidance from mentors, find support in our communities, and draw inspiration from the stories of others who have, walked this path before us.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dr. Palmer's teachings, what stands out to you as the most impactful takeaway?
For me, it's his emphasis on recognizing our inherent worth. Like Dr. Palmer reminds us, we are all fearfully and wonderfully made, each with unique gifts and talents to offer the world.
Yeah, and recognizing our worth, it's the foundation for everything else, like living authentically, setting boundaries, pursuing our purpose. It all stems from that deep sense of self-acceptance.
Exactly. When we believe in our own worthiness, we're less likely to, seek validation from external sources and more likely to make choices that align with our true selves.
Right. It's about shifting from like a place of seeking approval to a place of embracing who we already are.
Precisely. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating.
It can. To our listeners, as you continue on your own journey of self-discovery, what aspect of Dr. Palmer's message resonates most deeply with you? What one small step can you take today to embody that truth in your life?
Remember, the journey is yours to create. Embrace the process, trust your intuition, and never stop exploring the depths of who you are.
Until next time, deep divers, keep diving deep.